The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, Craig Haskin and Laura Sullivan will show you how to get paid upfront with MedEvolve Patient Cost Estimator. My name is Ashley Deitch, and I am Vice President of Marketing for MedEvolve. I have a few instructions before we get started. During the presentation, everyone except for the presenters will be on mute to prevent disruptions, but we do encourage questions. You should see a control panel to the right of your screen, similar to the one shown on the next slide. If you don't see it, you can access it from the tab at the top of your screen. Please submit your questions there at any time and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Also, if you have any issues during the webinar, there is an option to raise your hand, and if I see it raised, I will do my best to help out. Now let's get started. Craig?
Thank you, Ashley. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Craig Haskin. I'm the COO for MedEvolve. I've spent over 30 years in healthcare and IT, having been with some of the largest healthcare and IT firms throughout the country. Most recently, I left a startup which was focused on revenue cycle management and actually the efficiencies that are driven through workflow. As you all know, there's so much change in healthcare from the 30 years that I began to now. So much has changed, but yet so much has stayed the same. And what we're going to talk to you about today is really that front office, that pre-registration process that really needs to have a focus around your billing so that you can actually drive efficiencies and ultimately collect up front. Before we get into the presentation, I'd also like to introduce our co-presenter, Laura Sullivan. Laura is with eSolutions. eSolutions has been a partner of MedEvolve's for 15 years, and we are tightly integrated, including our clearinghouse process and much more, including we're going to be leveraging a tool that's fully integrated within MedEvolve, the Patient Cost Estimator. So Laura, why don't you just spend a few minutes giving your intro?
Yes, hi, Craig. Thank you so much. I've started with Practice Insight in 2018. However, I have been in the revenue cycle management and claims management industry for well over 15 years. I am here with eSolutions as a business partner with MedEvolve, and I appreciate the opportunity today to actually provide a live demonstration of the MedEvolve Patient Cost Estimator. So I'll go ahead and turn that back over to you, Craig, and thank you for this opportunity.
You bet. So just to outline things for this next hour is we're going to go through kind of the importance of financial clearance. And that may not be a word that you're familiar with, but it is that pre-registration workflow process that happens before your patient shows up to the office. Then we're going to go into really the introduction of the patient estimator, how the tool works. And then Laura, at this point, will kind of go deep inside to give you a demo of the product so you can see exactly how it works, how it will work with your practice management software. And obviously, the whole intent of this is to show you how we can collect up front and eliminate that risk. So what is financial clearance? And it's really one of those things that when you drive into kind of the front office side of what happens in your medical practice, there's several things that you go through. And on the next slide, it's kind of, we break it down this way. The insurance verification, the coordination of benefits, the actual benefit coverage, how you go through and actually verify, is this procedure covered, like a pre-authorization? And clearly part of that with the patient on elective surgery is this estimate of the patient liability. And that's really, we're going to hone in on that, but I really want to broaden it because this term financial clearance, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to share a little bit about some insight and some coming soon technology we're putting around our AI-driven workflow. And so this whole process, in addition to the patient liability, is something that we view as a way to optimize your practice, a way to drive efficiency, put productivity and algorithms around driving cash collection up front. And that's really where we think the value is to ultimately look at it as a process that can be optimized and then ultimately can have everything pre-approved prior to the patient getting there. So the other side benefit of this is that clearly patient engagement is really key and number one in all your offices. That's one of those things that we're patient engagement tools, working through kind of bring your own device, having kiosks in areas of using other means of communicating with your patients, having text messages, appointment reminders. But clearly, when we look at transparency and the whole idea of financial clearance, it should not be an offensive thing. Matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a way to engage with your patients, to bring that conversation up front. It strengthens the relationship between the patient and the practice. Yes, there's revenue. It strengthens the practice revenue, but it really gives the patient that insight as to how do they want to handle this service or this procedure. With so much of the specialty care market having elective surgeries, these estimates are critical to making those decisions. Just like large purchases for homes and cars, this is another way to view how do we fit this into our budget. If it's early in the year versus late in the year, what's the best time? And so without a financial clearance process, patients are guessing, and ultimately your practice, if you provide the service without a guarantee of payment, you're taking on risk. So we see this as a way to de-risk the process, to bring all that up front, to engage with your patient in a really proactive way so that you can help them make the best and right decision at that point in time. And the key part of that really gets it to kind of brass tacks is that estimate and how we drive that to bring clarity to the patient so that they can see the actual procedure itself represented. So we believe that as you go through this demo, you'll see that using this patient estimator solution within your PM software, it's going to be an essential step to actually starting that financial clearance process. It allows you to be upfront with your patients. It allows actuals, as you'll see in a minute, that we have actually payer actuals that are being brought back to you through the estimator based on procedures. So the procedures are like for like, so the patient, there's no guessing about it. Ultimately, having the insurance coverage, the deductible, all the coordination of benefits, it brings everything together so that a right decision, educated decision can be made. And ultimately, we think that's going to drive overall improved patient satisfaction and help you engage and retain your patients. So unless there's any other questions, I'll just turn it over to Laura to kind of take us into the demo on the patient cost estimator. Laura, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Craig. Okay, what I'd like to do is show you an actual demonstration of how to use the patient cost estimator. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background on what you're going to be seeing today. The patient cost estimator is unique in the way we estimate the patient's costs because we are actually using the patient's real-time, up-to-date eligibility information. As I said earlier, I'm from eSolutions. We are MedEvolve's claims clearinghouse service provider, and we are, if you are using MedEvolve's PM at this point in time, we are the company that's providing the eligibility information. So we have your patient's eligibility information when you're submitting that to your claims clearinghouse that's going through us. That's a huge benefit to have the real-time, up-to-date eligibility information. And then the other wonderful value that we have is we have your payer remittance information. Because you're submitting the claims through us, we're getting your remits back, and we go through those payer remits and identify the allowed amounts for those payers, and we will be able to specifically identify what those allowed amounts are for that payer with that provider. And for these reasons, we're uniquely positioned to provide a much more accurate estimation for your patients. Providers can run a patient cost estimation prior to the encounter, and you can provide the patient with a printed copy of the estimate if you so choose, and I'll show you how to do that. Also, PCE, and that's short for patient cost estimation. PCE consists of an easy three-step process that relies on a combination, as I mentioned before, of your eligibility information and your provider contract fee schedules. We like to say PCE is as easy as 1, 2, 3, an easy three-step process. First, you go in and launch, and by launching your patient cost estimator, you enter your procedure codes. Then second, once your procedure codes are entered, you launch into the calculate screen. Once you review and approve the estimated calculations, you are able to present an estimation to your patient and collect the payment. And this is the actual presentation. This is the actual report that is printed out that you can provide your patient. We generate a professional estimation that identifies the procedures and provides transparency to the payer allowed amount and the patient out-of-pocket expenses. And we'll go into a little bit more detail on that, but I wanted to give you an idea of the end product is this professional looking estimation that identifies the payer's responsibility at the end. So now let's take a look inside. Okay, if right now, if you all are currently using MedEvolve's PM, you are using MedEvolve's clearinghouse, and you are probably recognizing this portal right now. So I will log into the EDI Insight portal and show you how to create a patient cost estimation. This is actually in the Practice Insight EDI Insights eligibility module, and I have a list of patients here with eligibility. One thing I want to point out is that a patient cost estimation cannot be created without a completed eligibility record. So right now you are submitting eligibility information through us, and we have that information, and we will create a patient cost estimation based on that eligibility record. Therefore, I'm in the eligibility information. I want to give you a demonstration on patient's last name, LeBeau. It's Mr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm going to select his records. This is his eligibility information. So all of his information for his eligibility, he has a completed status. If you all are used to looking at the eligibility information, we've identified he does have coverage, active coverage, and I will show you how to create a patient cost estimation. For our demonstration today, I want to show you first how fast and efficient it is to create a patient cost estimation for Mr. LeBeau. And then once I show you how quickly it is, I'm going to go ahead and relaunch the patient cost estimation and give you a little bit more detail. But I don't want to get bogged down into the details, because I do want you to feel that this is a quick and easy tool that you can easily come up and open up and use on a daily basis. As I mentioned, I put in Mr. LeBeau's last name. However, this is probably what you're going to be doing. You're probably going to be over here selecting a date range. I recommend maybe just for today's date, and you can put in and only look at your patients scheduled. So all of your patients scheduled for that day will be selected in your list view, and you can create patient cost estimations for each of those from your list view. So I am selecting Mr. LeBeau. I'm clicking the patient cost estimation button, and this is step one. Step one is where we're going to enter the procedure code for the patient services to be rendered. I'm going to enter 99214. And notice when I hit tab, it actually populates that procedure code and gives the procedure code description. This is all I'm going to do right now. I want to go ahead and just use this procedure code. If I wanted to add another procedure, I could just click here for additional procedure. However, for this quick and easy demonstration, I want to show you, I'm entering the code. If I had any additional information here to filter for with the eligibility information, I could do so. However, I'm going to accept the defaults and hit submit. Once I hit submit, this takes me to my step two, which is my calculation screen. This is where all the calculations are occurring, and based on the procedure code I put in, I am actually getting my billed amount of $218.89 and my allowed amount of $122.08. Just to quickly identify and show you where I'm getting this information, down here is the deductible from the eligibility, $183 per calendar year, and $183 remaining. So the deductible has not been met, so therefore all of this $122.08 is going to go to the deductible, and that will be the patient's responsibility. If I wanted to add any additional text here for my final estimation, I can add it here, and this will show up when I save and display patient estimate. So that's how quick and easy it is to create a patient cost estimation. I identified the patient's eligibility. I hit the patient cost estimation button. I entered the procedure code. I accepted the information, and I generated this patient cost estimation. Very easy to do, and you can right click and print this for your patient and share with them. Now, let me go ahead and go back and show you exactly what I did and give you a little bit more details of the magic behind the screen here, per se. I'm going to return to my step one. So anytime during a patient cost estimation, you can return back to the previous steps. Okay, here in step one, we call this the launch form. It's identifying my active coverage. It's identifying my patient information. This information is being fed from the MedEvolve PM when the MedEvolve submitted the eligibility request. So we pulled in patient information and we pulled in insurance information. We've also pulled in patient account number, and scheduled date of services has come through too. Now this encounter information, the encounter ID is not required right here, but it may be used for tracking purposes. If it's useful for your organization, you would want to go ahead and put that in here. Previous balance. This is a field that we do encourage you enter if the patient has an outstanding balance. I'm going to enter $25, and you will see in a minute what this will where this will be shown in my estimation. So previous balance of $25. The provider information defaults to what was on the eligibility request record. So we have this provider, Dr. Doogie Hauser. However, any of the other doctors in the practice will show up in the drop-down box. And so if there are any other providers that would be performing these procedures other than Dr. Hauser, you would be able to select them as well. So as you saw earlier, I had entered my procedure code 99214. That's one way that you can enter your procedure codes one at a time. I can enter as many procedure codes as I want. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to enter one more. I'm going to enter 20551, hit tab, and that's populated, and that's there too. So we've given you 3 ways to enter these procedure codes. As I said, this is the one at a time way, adding additional procedures. There's another way too that we wanted to show you is selecting from this little folder file right here on your left. So say you forget a procedure code, or you just want to maybe look up one procedure code. This little folder will provide the user with a historical list of all the procedures that have previously been performed by this provider, as well as it lists all of the modifiers that have ever been billed and associated with these procedure codes. So you can easily use this lookup table, and this is populated when PCE is created. You don't have to load it at all. It's automatically populated. And let me just show you how easy this is. So say I wanted to use this procedure code, I can just double click and it will actually go in and enter that procedure along with that modifier, because I picked the line with that modifier 59. So that's a way to enter the procedures as well. However, we have the one that we actually really recommend. This other way that we enter and we encourage most is adding with procedure groups. So I'm going to clear these procedures and show you how to add procedure groups. For any procedures you commonly perform, rather than having to manually enter all these codes, we can build procedure groups. Then all you have to do is double click on those codes and they are automatically populated. Once these services have been defined, you have the ability to suppress or isolate the specific eligibility coverage information that will be showing up on your next screen for calculations. This will be set up to defaults. However, at this point in time, I don't have it set up to qualify just on Medicare Part A or Part B. I can look up here and I can see that this patient is a Medicare B. So I can select Medicare Part B, and the Medicare Part A information will be suppressed. Now, because we do have the full eligibility response from the payer, you may want to look at that. You can view that eligibility response in other places in our system, as well as in the MedEvolve PM. However, we want to show you right here in the patient cost estimation, up at the top, there is a hyperlink to view this eligibility response. If I click on here, this is giving me a view of the eligibility information by services. And this we've put together a report that shares with you all of the information that this payer sent back on their eligibility response. And this is it. And again, any of these reports, or anytime you see these on the screen, you can right click and print that off to share with your patient. This is the benefit services view by, or benefit information viewed by services. We can also change and view the eligibility and benefit information by coverage. So at this point, this is identifying my type of coverage, and these are all the services within that Medicare type. We have the Medicare Part B, the payer sent back the Medicare Part A as well, Part D, and even they sent back some information on non-covered services as well for us. Again, it can be printed out and it's here for your view if you need it. Okay, so I've added all the procedures that I want for this estimate. I'm going to hit submit, and here's my calculation screen. As you see this time, it's created a different estimation based on the different procedures that I put in. But let me go back and point out the top. So on this top banner, we're telling you what step you're on. You're on step 2, the calculation screen. We are carrying over or pulling over that hyperlink to view the eligibility response here as well, if you need to refer to it on this screen. We're pulling over the patient banner information. We're now including that encounter information from this previous screen, and we still have this insurance information up here on the banner. So we have a clear and consistent view here on the step 2 calculation of the patient information. Let's go down here and look at this current estimate due. This section actually will identify the procedures, and it shows the billed amount, and it shows the allowed amount per unit. What I'd like to do is kind of tell you a little bit about the benefits of this allowed amount. We've been saying it, that we pull this allowed amount from the remittances, but I just want to tell you that how our system works. We actually go out and the system reviews historically how this provider has been paid for this payer and for these specific procedure codes, and we use that information for our estimation. Now, you might say, well, Dr. Hauser is kind of new to our practice. We, as a practice, have been billing for these procedure codes, but Dr. Hauser really probably hasn't even ever received a remittance for these procedures. And if that's being the case, it will actually match if on the other providers in your group, and it will tell you what the match type is, that it's matched an allowable amount, not on this specific MPI, but we do have a match within providers in your practice. And we also, if you can say, well, we just started doing a new procedure for this particular payer, no one's ever received a remittance for this procedure. If that is the case, we can show you where you can populate that and enter that in to pull through for your patient cost estimation. So we're very flexible in this area on how we're getting this information, but know that the true essence of the power of what we're doing and the information we're providing you is pulling that information from the actual remittances. This coverage option columns right here allow for flexibility to override the deductible or the coinsurance or copay by selecting the waived option. This is just another reason that we say that we can give you flexibility in making changes like this dynamically. There might be an opportunity. We do have some patients that say, well, I know that this patient has seen 2 other doctors this morning and they've met their deductible. So in this estimate, we're going to waive this deductible, and that can be done right here on this screen dynamically. Okay, now from here, you'll notice that these filters are carried over from the previous screen where I had selected only Medicare Part B. So it's only bringing up my Medicare Part B, and it's showing me the breakdown of the payment request based on the eligibility information. So with the deductible being applied to eligibility, right here, this amount due is $183. And with the coinsurance, we're calculating the amount due is $1,444. And as I put in previously, the balance of $25, that is coming up as well. Here's the optional box for text, and I can save this selection and display my patient cost estimation again, this time with these new procedures. And let me just tell you a little bit about this. This is your practice information. This can be customized if you wanted to say something else up here in the corner. You can customize this area. We're pulling in the patient information. we're pulling in the procedures. We're being very transparent and showing the patient the billed amount, the allowed amount, their copay, deductible, and co-insurance amounts. And we're identifying the estimated allowed, the insurance payment, and the estimated due for the encounter, and then the total due for that patient. Here is this text box if you needed to use it. And then here we have certain verbiage specific to how we calculated the estimate. This verbiage is totally customizable. So if you wanted to put something else in here on the screen to present to your patients, you're certainly welcome to, and we will do that in setup. We also have added a patient name line as well as a signature line with date if you needed to use that. So this is a very nice professional looking handout that you can give your patient. You can get their signature handed back, and you can collect payment right here for the $222.44. Now, what I wanted to show you down here is at any point in time, if there are changes to be made, if you've found out that you will be doing one more procedure, you can return to step 1 and add those procedures, or you can return to step 2, again, if, for example, if you wanted to waive that deductible. Again, all of this is optional, meaning you can move backwards to these previous steps if you need to make modifications. Whatever needs to be done. So we've covered a lot of details in how to create this patient cost estimation, but I'd like to remind you that the first estimation that I did was only in about 30 seconds that it took to create. Another important capability I wanted to show you is the ability to generate patient cost estimations for patients that have secondary or tertiary insurance coverage. I happen to have in here a patient, and her last name is Secondario. And I'm going to select Susie Secondario's records. And see, I've already created a patient cost estimation for Susie. So right here in this PCE column, it shows me dollar signs. That means I've already created an estimate. Anytime you create a patient cost estimate, it is always stored in our system, and you can always come into the system, look up that patient's name, highlight that area, and click the patient cost estimation, and her estimation that was created will always be able to be pulled up again. So this is the estimation that was previously created for Susie, and this is the power behind being able to incorporate the primary insurance payment and the secondary insurance payment. Gone are the days where the patient says, oh, well, I have secondary insurance, so can we wait till they pay before I pay? This solves that issue with that, because we are actually factoring in the secondary insurance payment as well. So that completes our demonstration, and I'm going to go ahead and return to our presentation to summarize, and we have an opportunity for any questions as well. So in summary, PCE benefits. PCE easily and seamlessly will generate the most accurate patient cost estimation for your patients. It significantly improves cash collection, and it reduces your bad debt write-offs. It improves the patient experience with providing advance notice of those procedural costs prior to treatment. And it turns an inaccurate, painstaking, and a manual process that you're probably doing right now into an efficient, accurate, and automated process that supports the financial clearance workflow. And Craig, I'll turn that back to you to go ahead and wrap up with your financial clearance recap.
You bet. So, clearly you can see the impact of looking at all options on the primary and secondary and generating this estimate in terms of being real transparent to your patient. It's very common to coordinate benefits across several plans, and so having this ability within PC clearly gives that seamlessness, and it allows your patient to get a lot more comfortable about you being very transparent about all the permeations of how the visit and the procedure will be handled. We definitely see that this is driving an increased patient satisfaction. There's no question that patients, when they feel like they're in control, they begin to partner with you in terms of, well, let me tell you what I'm going through in my life in terms of how this may or may not fit. And so we definitely see that this is taking that discussion from, instead of it being a post-visit going after dollars, this becomes a pre-visit kind of life choice in terms of options about how they want to handle the visit. And for us, the whole complexity around this pre-registration, again, what we're calling financial clearance, we've seen that by looking at this as an end-to-end process, looking at the insurance verification, coordination of benefits, looking at all the coverage details, and then driving through this patient cost estimation, that you can actually put this in a process that can actually be algorithm driven. And so we've actually begun the process of launching our AI-driven workflow solution around the financial clearance processes. And so later this quarter, it'll be available for those that use MedEvolve PM, and really those that even don't use our PM. We are able to integrate with third-party platforms based on specific integration criteria. So that's really taking this further than just waiting for the patient to show up. Is actually creating the workflow and the front office behavior of prior to visits, 2 days, 3 days, a week in advance, setting up this workflow and actually driving it through a seamless AI-driven process that allows the algorithms and how we would drive who's next and what we go to closure. So pretty exciting. We'll be having a webinar around that when we get closer to that time frame. But again, thank you at least for being a part of this webinar. But we also, before we close out, just wanted to take on questions. So Ashley, I'm going to take it back to you so you can kind of drive the Q&A part.
Sure.
Ashley, hi, this is Laura. I can actually see the questions as well.
Okay, I'll let you handle.
So I think I see two, and it looks like both of them I can field. So I'm going to answer this first question that was asked. How do I get started with the patient estimator? That's a great question. Once you complete a work order through MedEvolve, we have a training and implementation team that will work with MedEvolve and you, and also your schedule, to set up and provide training and implementation. We use GoToMeeting to provide the training, and we review the default setups, as I kind of explained in the demonstration. We have setups to make this even easier to generate at the estimation, and that is what we consider part of implementation. And that usually is about an hour training session the first time, and then we let you play with it and create these estimations, and then we follow up with you either the next day or the next week based on your needs. And that actually is a good segue into this other question. Let me see, I have this comment. Okay, this other question is, how long does it take before I can use the estimator? So assuming you are already using our clearinghouse services with eligibility and claims and remits, the training team will use your patient information to create the estimations. So we actually, when we connect with you via GoToMeeting, we can access your live data on the phone with you. And so we actually expect you to begin creating these estimations on day one, because we've got that eligibility information and we have those remits. There's no need to do any setup, because we can pull all of that information in automatically. So we expect you to begin, once we set up that training time period for that first hour, to begin creating estimations on day one of training. So it's really exciting. Let me see. Ashley, do you see any other questions? I don't see any other questions.
There are actually quite a few, yes.
Oh, okay. I can't see that one. Let me see. Question. Okay, I see that one. Hi, question regarding multiple procedures. Will this reduce this?
Laura,
I think
we can't hear you.
right.
Oh no. All right. Well, worst case scenario, I do have all of your questions. I unfortunately cannot answer them myself, but we will certainly get back to you if Laura isn't able to get back on the line here.
Hello, can you hear Dave?
Yes, yes. Hi, Dave.
Go ahead.
Hello there. Maybe I'll try to take a stab, but I think also our technical experts may want to answer one or two of these. Don't know where Laura went to, but I think I'm focused on a question called, would we have to do two different estimates if we need to estimate for the facility and for the physician? The estimates are based on MPI, so you may need to do two estimates, one for the practicing physician and one for the facility. We can get solid answers and send out the log of that too. Is there an option to have location-based or hospital surgery benefits? Yes, if the payer, if the insurance company has those benefits by location, yes, we will be able to view them, pull them into the estimate. What are we looking at in additional monthly costs to add to this module? That's from Gloria. Thank you, Gloria. And it's a great question. It's a question that goes to your MedEvolve team. As the partner, we don't deal with the pricing stuff. So I get to push that on Ashley. Sorry.
Yes, I will have your account manager reach out to you, Gloria. Thank you.
The next one for Gloria is we currently use the PM module. Well, great. Congratulations. Thank you. I think that was just a precursor for the next question. Anyway, we're glad you're a PM module user. Next one from Rebecca. Can you show again? Doesn't look like we can. We lost Laura. How the secondary insurance was calculated when running the PCE on a patient with two insurances. Yeah, I think I'll push this to Ashley, but knowing that Ashley will get your account manager involved in the practice insight, we can do a demo collectively, the team, to your practice or anybody on this call if you want to see a deeper dive and look at it individually.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that I will send out the video of this webinar also. Somebody else asked that, so that answers one of the other questions.
Okay, good. Let's see, where am I at? Next one was from Lauren. Hello, Lauren. If we do not have a login for EDI Insight, how do we obtain one? Ashley?
I think I would have to have the account manager reach out. I'm probably not the best person to answer these questions, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's true, though. I think, no, not that you can't answer them, that they would contact their account manager. Will we be emailed slides of the presentation? I think Laura would have, if Laura were with us, she would have said yes, and I know Ashley is coordinating that.
That's right, yes, and the recorded presentation.
Excellent. Okay, I'm on a roll, apparently.
There's actually a few new ones, it looks like, so.
They keep piling up, which is good. Thank you guys, everybody on this call, for all the interest. This is an exciting tool and can really help your practices out. Okay, from Todd. Hi, question regarding multiple procedures. Will this reduce the secondary procedure and any procedure after that? It really depends, I believe, on how you're billing, and we would want to look at a specific example, Todd. So the standard answer would be your account manager will follow up, take your question, we have that, and then we'll do a little research on it and talk with you about that. Is that fair?
That sounds good.
Gloria. Gloria's got a great question. How far out are your training schedules? Well, on the Practice Insight, we follow the lead of MedEvolve. So when you finish your official paperwork with MedEvolve, then we will schedule it where we can schedule something, I think, and I put everybody in a corner when I say something, but as soon as next week, if we can get everything else together. If you're a Practice Insight user, if you already are utilizing the eligibility solution, then that can go fairly quickly. And as Laura said on the call, we can get you up and running patient cost estimations day one. The initial training's probably an hour, hour and a half to get things up and rolling on that side, but coordinate that through the team at MedEvolve. Okay. Boy, oh boy, the questions are piling up. I didn't realize I was going to have to work this hard. Holy moly. Okay, from Annie. Hello, Annie. PCE can only be used if we use eligibility. Currently, we're only using for claims. Well, yes, Annie, unfortunately, you would need to start utilizing our eligibility services. Because that's where we get the deductibles and the co-pays and what's remaining, and that's the step one in terms of the step-by-step process. So yes, that is an important element. I'm sure your account manager with MedEvolve would be very happy to talk with you about what eligibility can do for you. It's a great solution. Most people are really gravitating towards it right now. Great question. Thank you, Annie. We have a question from Jennifer. Are you just using fee schedules and CPT codes to determine costs? So the first and foremost, what we want to use in the first level that we would utilize in terms of fee schedules costs would be what the doctor has been paid, remittances, by that insurance for that particular procedure. So we're going to look at the history. We're going to look at what they've been paid over time. There are other methods, and you do land on another method of utilizing your fee schedules. And it without a history, we can do it. We can do it based on fee schedules. We'd have to work with you to get those loaded into the solution. But we're doing that all the time for many people. Hopefully that answered your question, Jennifer. It was a great one. And I think for better or worse, I've handled the questions that I see. Do you see any others, Ashley?
No, I think that covered all of them. So I'm glad you were on to be able to step in and handle those.
Well, I didn't know I was volunteering for such a prominent role in the webinar, but I do appreciate all the great questions. This is a great product that doctors and providers all around the country are seeing benefits today. So that's my story, and thanks again. I will yield over to Ashley. And
yes, thank you everyone for joining. If you want to reach out proactively to us, our email address is info@medevolve.com. That goes straight to me. And you can also reach us through our website or by phone. If you dial our 800 number and hit extension 4, that will go to our sales and marketing line. But thank you all. We will also follow up individually if in case we missed any questions. And you will be receiving the recorded webinar and other materials as soon as tomorrow. So I hope you all have a great afternoon, and thank you again for joining.